Good morning. So today's lesson is on angle pairs of parallel lines. So angle pairs of parallel lines. So one thing that you want to know, and it relates to supplementary and complementary angles that you did last week, is that if we have a straight line and now we've made it two angles, if this is 150, then we know that this must be 180 minus 150 is 30, because this is a straight line. If you know one piece of it and it's turned into an angle, then now you can just subtract it from 180. So that is important because when we have parallel lines, we want to keep that in mind. So if we have a set of parallel lines, lines that never intersect, and it's cut by a transversal. A transversal is a line that intersects two parallel lines. So it intersects the two parallel lines. So, and a transversal, and this is also coming from your page 336, creates this pattern. So I'm going to name all of these angles: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. What's fun about these is that once you know one angle, you can figure out what the measurement is for all of them. So going back to what I just said a moment ago, let's say that angle A is 150 degrees. Pretend that this bottom stuff isn't here. I just went over this with you with that one line, and if you have an angle, and this is 180 degrees, a straight line is 180 degrees. So pretend that all of this doesn't exist. So if angle A is 150, then that means angle B must be 30. And so also, we've talked about vertical lines. Vertical angles are congruent. That means a vertical angle is angles that make an X with each other. Like this angle is congruent with this angle. So A and D, if you were to get a protractor and measure that, you would see that angle A and angle D are vertical with each other. That means that they are equal. So that means angle D is 150 degrees. And angle B and angle C are also vertical. So if B is 30, that means angle C is 30. So that's vertical angles. Now there's something called corresponding angles. Corresponding angles, and I'm just reading straight from your book, are a pair of non-adjacent angles with one interior, one exterior. So I'm running out of room. I wish I had my school board, but I'll try and fit my notes in right here. So I'm going to erase this, what I just had right here, but that is just proving vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. Vertical angles are the ones that look like an X. Or look, vertical has a V. It looks like two V's. They're the ones that are across from each other in that X. So I'm going to erase this for a second so that you can just focus on the new vocab that I'm going to give you. So corresponding. has one interior, that means one inside, and one outside. And they are on the same side as on the transversal, same side of the transversal. So that means that we have one inside and one outside angle. So what this means, let's talk about what I mean by inside and outside. These A and B are outside the parallel lines. G and H are outside the parallel lines. So interior means they're on the inside of the parallel lines. Exterior means they are on the outside. So exterior and outside are the same. And interior are the ones inside. So for a corresponding, we need to have one inside and one, I wrote outside instead of exterior. So we need to have one interior and one exterior angle. So here's a transversal, and I have a different color marker here, but I don't know if you can see it. So here's a transversal. It has to be on the same side. So I'm going to look at this side of the of the transversal. And one of them has to be inside and one of them has to be outside. So look at A is on the outside, E is on the inside. So A and E are corresponding angles. And it looks like they are the same. Look at A. A is a nice obtuse angle and E is an obtuse angle. Those are the same. So now let's look at this one. C and G. C is on the inside. G is on the outside, so that's the one interior, one exterior, and they're both on the same side of the transversal. So C and G are a set of corresponding angles. Now let's look on the other side of the transversal. So now this time we're going to look on this. Here's our transversal. We're looking on this side. B and F. B is on the outside, F's on the inside. So B and F. And then also D and H. One's on the inside, one's on the outside, and they're on the same side of the transversal. Now, what this means is that if I know what A is, so earlier I said A is 150 degrees. That means angle E is 150 degrees, and so that means if B was 30 degrees, then that means F is also 30 degrees. And if I know angle C is 30 degrees, then that means G is also 30 degrees. And if I know that D is 150 degrees, then that means H is also 150 degrees. So that's corresponding angles. So you can literally figure out what all the rest is based on one angle. It kind of reminds me, I like to do Sudoku puzzles, those numbers 1 through 9, where if you can figure out one angle, it dominoes and helps out figuring, number 1 through 9. It reminds me of this because if I know one angle, I can figure out the rest. All right, so that's corresponding. One interior, one exterior, and they're on the same side of the transversal. So now we've learned about vertical. We've learned about corresponding. Now we are going to talk about alternate, interior angles. So I'm going to read literally what it means and then I'll show you. Is a pair of non-adjacent interior angles on opposite sides of the transversal. So non-adjacent, that means not next to each other. So I'm going to go over what they write and then I will translate it into real words. Non-adjacent means they are not next to. They're not touching. They're not sharing a side, so they're not next to each other. The next thing that they said was they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Opposite sides of the transversal. And it also said they are interior angles. So let's break that down. Let's focus actually on the bottom thing, interior. That means they're on the inside of the parallel lines. It also means, so here, that means it's going to be C, D, E, or F. It means, let's go, so I think that's the easiest thing to translate, the interior. Next, let's go up. They're on opposite sides of the transversal. So, but also, so E and F are on the opposite sides of the transversal, but they're not allowed to be next to each other. See how E and F are next to each other? They are not allowed to be next to each other. They have to be right here. C and F are alternate interior angles because they are on the inside, they are not next to each other, they are on opposite sides of the transversal. And then so there you can see that D and E. And again, if you just use common sense to double check, does it look like C and F are parallel? Not parallel, congruent. Look at C. It's a nice, acute little angle. And look at F. Well, it's an acute angle. D is a big obtuse angle. E is a big obtuse angle. So yes, they are congruent with each other. So C and F are the same and D and E are the same. And then the last one is alternate exterior angles. So it's the same as the interior, except they're going to be outside angles. So it's a pair of, again, non-adjacent, which means not next to. I'm sure I'm going to spell that wrong. Good thing I'm a math teacher, not a spelling teacher. Did I spell it wrong? Yep. They are on opposite sides of the transversal. Opposite of the transversal. And they are exterior. And it kind of makes sense. Alternate means like kind of like opposite. And so a non-adjacent means opposite or opposite of the transversal. Okay, so here we go. Exterior. That means A and B and G and H. So it has to be on the opposite side of the transversal. So A, here's my transversal, has to be on the other side of that. Do not even look in the middle. Only look on the top and on the bottom. So A is going to be congruent to angle H. Again, if this is my transversal, they have to be on the opposite side. So A would have to be over here. It couldn't be B. A and B are on the opposite side of the transversal, but they're not allowed to touch. Don't touch. Adjacent means they're sharing a side. They're not, A and B are sharing that side there, so it can't be that. So A and H and B and G are exterior angles. So if I'm looking at your homework, I'm going to draw a fresh set of parallel lines and transversal. Like my Sudoku, which I'm playing way too much of right now, lately. If I can know one number, I can figure out the rest. So I'm doing number 7, and then the rest, hopefully, you can do on your own. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so number 7 says that angle M, when they say that, or when you see that, that means the measure of angle 5, when the measure of angle 3 equals 80. So they want us to find 5. Oops, what did I meant to write a question mark there, sorry. They want to know the angle of angle 5 if we know the measure of angle 3 equals 80. So, based on the alternate interior angles, it means they are the same. So alternate interior, remember means interior, we're looking on the insides. They're opposite of the transversal, so that means they are the same. So that means this would also be 80 degrees. Okay, so do your best. I will have a Zoom also on Wednesday, and I will give more information about what you're doing tomorrow regarding the video you're going to make. Bye-bye.